Here,
Hi,
all set.
everybody. This is Kathleen White, and I welcome all of you to Teach for the Bay. I hope you find this next session informative. Debt-free pathways sounds very interesting, so get out your notepads. And I will be putting in an evaluation into the chat later on in this workshop. So take a look, and we'd like you all to fill out an evaluation. So thank you. Thank you for being here, Hector and Reach, and have a great workshop.
Hi,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. And just a reminder, this session is being recorded. And so if you missed any parts of it, I think it's going to be available through Teach for the Bay. And we'll keep our contact information in here as well, in case there's anything that you miss. Please feel free to be on screen, on cam, off cam, whatever's comfortable to you. We'll start with a short presentation, and then we'll have lots of time for Q&A because one of the biggest questions people ask is, this sounds too good to be true. So we'll tell you why it is not too good to be true, but it is good and it is true. So we will start first by introducing ourselves, so you know a little bit more about our presenters. And for this part of the presentation, I do like to go off screen just so that you can see our faces, hear our stories through our words, and then we'll return back to the slides after that. So I will begin. My name is Hector Camacho. I am the Senior Vice President of Workforce Development and the Dean of Admissions at Reach University. I like to start by sharing a little bit about my why and why I'm at Reach University. I started off as a young person knowing that I wanted to be a teacher. Challenge was I had no idea how to make that happen. My parents did not go to school. Or should I say to high school. So even the high school diploma was a success for us. But when my friends were going off to college, I didn't figure out that I needed to have applied for that earlier on. And that led me to enroll in the community college. My first semester in the community college, if you like the alphabet, you would like my transcript. It had W's and I's and D's and F's, and I think one B. That was a tough transition to community college, just to college overall. But again, I knew I wanted to teach. I just didn't know how to get there. I had a former principal of mine take a shot and hire me as a bilingual classroom aide. And that's what I did. I worked as an aide, and I spent the next 9 years and $140,000 in debt before I was a teacher myself. And so that is part of my story, and I own that, and it's part of who I am. But I also don't think that should be anyone else's story. And so that's why I came to Reach University. It's really important for me that there are clear pathways to education for folks that want to become teacher, particularly folks of color, to be honest. I went through most of my entire K, probably 16 experience without a Latino teacher, without a Latino male teacher at that. And so for many reasons, I wanted to become a teacher, and I just needed a clearer path to that. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Dr. Baham.
Hi, everyone. My internet is a little bit skittish, so if I turn my video off, you'll understand why. But I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to talk with you. My name is Liz Baham. I am the provost at Reach University, which essentially means that I oversee the academic programs at Reach, making sure we have quality programs to offer you and that we maintain our accreditation so that we are in good standing and that our degrees are actually worth the paper that they're written on as our students go out into the world. A little bit about my backstory and my why. I've been with Reach for about 8 or so years, a little over 8 years. I come from a background of being a teacher in San Francisco Unified School District. I come from a family of teachers, and my path to teaching was different from Hector's in that I was lured into teaching by my mother in particular, who told me that this is the best career you can ever have. And naturally, as somebody who didn't want to live my mother's life, I kind of rebelled against it until I finally figured out that, you know what, this is actually what I was born to do. So I was a math teacher in San Francisco Unified for several years. And then I moved into a place where I worked on behalf of schools and school districts, making sure that students could perform. So my why is really about access and opportunity. It's about the legacy of my grandmother, who was born in the 1900s in the South. And all she ever wanted for herself was an education. And as a Black woman in the 1900s, early 1900s in the South, that was not something that was offered to her. So she then tried to have those dreams come true for her family. And it just became an important part of our life as a family to make sure that we all educated ourselves, and we made sure that we had access and opportunity for education. And so a large part of what I do is to make sure that people who are in a position who think that maybe there are stumbling blocks or roadblocks or things in their pathway, that they actually really aren't. And that at least at Reach University, we are actively removing those barriers and creating wider pathways for access and opportunity. We don't live in a world anymore where those things have to be a part of our experience. And Hector and I and our team work really hard to make sure that the access is there, both in terms of easy to access, in terms of time, space, you don't have to drive anywhere, but also cost. And I think the opportunity comes in with high quality programming so that you go out into the world and you have the capacity to make change and affect change in your local region, community, and families. So welcome.
All right, so we will return to the show. Thank you for sharing that, Liz.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so a little bit more about Reach. At Reach, we like to say that we believe that great teaching is at the heart of every great school. And what that fundamentally means is that we believe in teachers. Reach Institute was created for educators by educators. Going back to 2006, 2007, there were a group of 15 educators who gathered together, and they were working teachers. And they said, you know what? My path to becoming a teacher wasn't relevant. What I learned in my teacher prep program didn't really help me become a strong teacher. I had to learn that on the job. And so they came together to create a teacher pathway that is relevant, making sure that the courses that help them become teachers actually apply to their day-to-day work, that the education was personalized, that there was support and development. We believe heavily in coaching, one-on-one, making sure people can develop their practice, and that we had a collaborative community of practice, that we had like-minded people working together to do the same thing, uplifting each other as we're all learning and growing and developing. So at Reach, our candidates work in classrooms while they are also taking classes with us. We try to make sure that what we are teaching our candidates in our classrooms can be applied the next day in their classroom, if not the next day, making sure that there's a meaningful experience and a tight loop between what you're learning as a student and what you're doing as a teacher. We call our approach job embedded, meaning that it's a circle, right? You learn something, you apply it, you experience something in the classroom, you bring it back to Reach, we talk about it, we analyze it, we figure it out, and it's all related to your job, and it helps you become a better practitioner. And then in the meantime, you're also getting your degree or your credential as you go. Importantly, Reach is a nonprofit, and we are regionally accredited. And what it means to be accredited is that you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting your time learning and not having the things that you're learning and working towards not matter. It is designed for working adults. So these are online programs, not programs where you're not interacting with teachers or other people. You are actually interacting with real people, real humans in a synchronous time, but it's designed for you as a working adult, understanding that very few of us have time to stop working and participate in school. So we work to make sure, again, that what you're learning is relevant to you as a growing and developing teacher, and respecting the fact that you have full lives as an adult. We consider ourselves to be a teacher-focused university. Some of what that means is the people who are teaching you are either currently teaching themselves in a K-12 environment somewhere else, or they formerly were teaching in a K-12 environment. So it's teachers working with teachers. And that's really important because these are people who understand what it means to live the life of a teacher. They know what the day-to-day experience of that is like. And our focus at Reach is really on serving urban and rural schools and having a deep understanding of what those contexts bring and helping you, regardless of whether you're in a rural setting or an urban setting, flourish within that school community that you're working in.
So I'm sure I don't have to spend too much time describing to you why we focus so heavily on teaching and teachers. But just to give you context for what's going on, there are about 500,000 students in California that are entering a school building where the teacher in front of them is either not a permanent teacher, is a substitute, is in some cases a paraprofessional. And that's a huge issue, and it's getting worse. And so when we think about that number, 500,000, what we know about that number is it's not just affecting all students. It's disproportionately affecting students of color and those that live in the communities that we're looking to serve. And that's why we focus just on education. You're not going to come to Reach University and get a degree in nursing or in business or in any of those things. Education is our focus. And we stay 100% focused on this because this is who we're hoping to serve, is the students who need high quality teachers in their room. What that means is we've been able to build a program that really represents the face of California. And that sets us apart a little bit. In our case, we have about 1,000 alumni that are working in California schools as teachers and school leaders at this point. And 52% of those identify as BIPOC in some way. We intentionally create spaces that uplift Black, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian Pacific Islander. These are the communities that we are working towards because we know that the face of California students is also changing. And so we create intentional programs that celebrate that excellence and support those educators in that work because we know that having community is what helps make really healthy schools.
You're going to see a range of programs, degrees, and credential that Reach offers. We've kind of highlighted the area that we think is more relevant to this particular conversation and to where you are, but just for you to understand where we operate in the space of offering an Associate of Arts program all the way up to a master's degree where folks are also getting their administrative credential. Honestly, our goal is to help you get in your foot in the door as an early educator, become a teacher, you kind of conquer and master that teacher space. And then you have opportunities to say, like, you know what, I'm at a place where I'm ready to grow and learn more and have an influence on other people. Like maybe you want to get your master's degree, maybe you want to go into school leadership. So at Reach, we try to cover that full gamut of programming from somebody who is new in the game, getting their Associate of Arts degree, to folks who like, maybe I already have my bachelor's degree and I want to get a master's or I want to become a school leader. Here tonight, we're going to focus more of our conversation around the Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies and our California Intern Teaching Credential Program, which are two incredible opportunities that we have for folks in California to have a supportive relevant pathway to becoming a teacher. So there's some terms that we are using, and I just want to make sure that we're all clear on some of the terms that we're using. When we say job embedded, we mean that it's place-based, that folks have a job in a school, whether that is as an instructional aide, as a para-educator, maybe they're at a teacher level, maybe they're at an admin level, depending upon where they are in the spectrum. But folks are working professionals that are enrolled in our programs. And so the courses you take are relevant to what your job is. So that's where our job embedded learning comes from. Distance learning. How many of you experienced distance learning, like especially during the pandemic? Was that okay? So Reach made the shift to distance learning during the pandemic, and we decided to not go back into the in-person. Is that because we figured out a way to make the learning high quality and personalized, even though we are sitting in our respective spaces.
Is that Chloe?
In a Zoom room.
Will you close the door?
So Zoom,
Yeah.
Zoom, yeah,
Thank you.
somebody close the door. Yeah. So distance learning is a phrase that's used many different places. But for us, what it means is there is synchronized learning, meaning you are in a space like this, where we're having conversations in real time, and you have opportunities to be in a cohort with your peers, and that maybe there's a breakout that happens, and you have small group discussions that are happening during that time. It means that there is online coaching. So you get support, no problem, Cynthia, just playing around with you. So that you get support from a coach on your practice. So those are really important terms for you to understand when we say that, because distance learning can have a negative connotation to it, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, just go online and do this thing and don't interact with humans in any way, shape, or form. And that is not what Reach means. And affordable, $75 a month with no student debt. Hector kind of told you his story. And I don't know if he told you how much of the debt is that he carries from his journey. There are things that we have both experienced that we choose not to replicate here at Reach. I've never heard personally of an accredited university that charges $75 a month with no intentionality around student debt. And that's what Reach is hiring. That's, I mean, Reach is offering for its programming, excuse me.
All right, thank you, Liz. And we'll get more into that that cost, but we just wanted to highlight those real key points for today. So just because we're not sure of like where you all are coming from in the room, I want to give you a really quick overview of how the pathway to teaching in California. There are two real main pathways, both of which require the bachelor's degree as that starting point. You have to have a bachelor's degree in hand to even consider teaching in this state right now. And so we'll all start with the bachelor's degree, which can take anywhere from 4 or more years. I mean, I will volunteer that it was a 7-year path for me. I really liked community college, so I stayed there for 5 years. But once you've got that bachelor's in hand, you really have a decision point to make. You can go the traditional student teaching path, which means that you would enter into a graduate school. That could be San Francisco State, Cal State East Bay, any of the local colleges that have a teacher ed program. And you would be doing your graduate coursework, and you would be placed in the classroom to do student teaching, which is unpaid service, right? So you're not getting paid for that, but you'd be in one class, and you would be gradually released into your responsibility, meaning you'll do a couple lessons here and then a couple lessons there. And then eventually for a whole term, you'll be the teacher of record during that time. And depending on what kind of program you're doing, that could be a year if it's full-time, or in some cases, it can be 2 to 3 years. That's student teaching. Reach does intern teaching programs. So in our case, the person that's becoming the teacher actually starts day one as the teacher of record. And so they have full responsibility for the class that they are teaching once they start that intern teaching credential program. And that might sound a little scary at first, except that we're going to talk about our bachelor's program, which helps build that confidence so that in your work with students in those 2 years after your associate's degree, you do feel confident to enter as a teacher of record while you're earning your credential through REACH. So the standard program for the intern is 2 years beyond your bachelor's. And for those that are really, really coming with a lot of experience, there's an option for a shorter 1-year early completion program. So there's student teaching, and then there's intern programs. Both of these lead to the same thing, something called a California Preliminary Teaching Credential. And that is the thing that you want to be kind of on your own-ish in teaching, something called induction. That's a whole nother process, but that's how you get the credential in hand. So what does that look like at REACH? What we can say in this room is that any of you in this room, and I believe most of you are all community college students right now, once you have an associate's degree in hand, you are immediately eligible for REACH's 2-year Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies program. So this is a job-embedded program, whether your degree be in business or English or nursing or any other technology or field, you are automatically eligible for REACH's BA in Liberal Studies. That's because California community colleges have created such a great cohesive system in terms of what is required for your associate's degree that will automatically transfer into REACH very, very easily. So if you're coming from lots and lots of different majors and you're coming to REACH, remember, we're a teacher-focused university. And if you were anything like me in community college, you had to figure out the catalog and the schedule, and you had to pick these courses and that courses, make sure this one counted for this and that one counted for that. Not at REACH. Once you've got that associate's degree, you enter into a 2-year pathway where all the courses are selected for you, all the courses count towards your degree, and you will be done in 2 years. We want to create the clearest pathway to degree and credential for anyone that wants to do this. And so once you've got that REACH BA in Liberal Studies, that transitions very nicely into the REACH Intern Teacher Credential Program. Or some of you might still even be considering a different university for intern teaching, or maybe you want to do the student teaching pathway. That's available for all of you. But REACH has created a clear pathway for those that want to stick along for both parts of it through REACH University. So let me tell you what that looks like. As Liz mentioned, this is not just regular distance learning where maybe you participate on a message board, you're asked to respond to one of your colleagues' comments, you submit a paper, you don't really see anyone, it's all kind of real distance learning. We actually take the classroom and we just bring it to Zoom. And so you are interacting with live professors of practice, and I'll talk about them in a moment. And you meet twice per week in the evening outside of work hours. These professors are what we call professors of practice. These individuals are working in PK to 12 schools as principals, assistant superintendents, and they are the ones that are doing this. In many cases, they're doing it as an additional service to the field of teaching. These are the folks that know what good teaching looks like, have been teachers themselves, and they want to share that expertise with this new generation and next generation of teachers. And so they are very engaged with you from day one. They are the ones that understand how learning works, and they know that support is a critical part of that. So we really pride ourselves on our professors of practice because they know how to engage learners. On top of that level of support, you're going to receive an advisor, a candidate support advisor, who is available to help you navigate these 2 years in your undergraduate program. Now, REACH is a full-time college program. That's how we get you out in 2 years. With that 2-year program, you should probably account for around 20 hours a week of study and prep time. Many of you may be carrying a 15 to 18 unit course load right now per semester. And so you know that you have to build in time for your readings, you're listening to podcasts, you're listening to videos, you're writing, all those things. Just because REACH is distant doesn't mean that the rigor goes away. You just have to kind of account for that time as you're preparing, just as you are currently at your community college. And if you need that additional support, there is extra tutoring and study sessions available. Okay? That is the bachelor's program, and that's what's in front of you right now. After the bachelor's program is the intern program. And Liz is going to talk a little bit about that one, but it's a little bit further out. So I don't want you to get too bogged down in the details on that one, but we just want to give you an idea of what happens once you complete the bachelor's degree.
Okay, so again, intern teacher credential. This means you are working as the teacher of record in a classroom. But as an intern teacher, you don't have the ultimate credential that you need to just kind of do this on your own. So you're the teacher of record in a classroom, but you are still you're at this point a graduate student taking classes. So what does this look like, and how might it differentiate itself from what Hector was talking about when you were still getting your BA at the undergraduate program? So our coursework and seminars at the graduate level as an intern teacher are cohort based, meaning you're going to travel with the same group of students, no more than 25 in a cohort. You're going to travel with them throughout your experience. You're going to have one faculty member a year. It is that job embedded coursework that we talked about, making sure that what you're learning with us is connected to what you're doing in the classroom as a teacher of record. There are weekly seminars. So it's one night a week, 3 hours a week that you take. And again, understanding like you are a teacher. So you have a full day job. And so we meet with you one night a week with your seminar, with your cohort in your synchronous seminars. How we support you in your practice is that there is a dedicated coach for you, somebody who has a credential in the area that you are working in. So if you are seeking to be a math teacher, then your coach will be somebody who has a clear credential in math, somebody who's actually gone that path and can help you out in learning how to teach math. I see the question in the chat. If you are an intern teacher, that means you have a full job in a school. You earn whatever that salary is as a teacher for whatever that school is. Now, different districts will pay different things. We don't want to get into that, but whatever the salary is for a new teacher is what you would get as an intern teacher. So you are earning a salary at that time, but you're still working towards getting that credential that you need. So you have a coach who has, you're very welcome. You have a coach who has a credential in the area that you're working towards. So that's highly, highly personalized and relevant for you to tap into that wealth of knowledge that that person has. They can not only help you with content, but they can help you with the pedagogy. Like how do you approach certain things? How do you approach student support and intervention, et cetera? And then there's something called Cal TPA. So Cal TPA is something that the state of California has as an assessment for new teachers. It's not something that Reach does that's new or different from anybody else. Anybody striving to be a teacher has to pass the Cal TPA. It's called the California Teacher Performance Assessment. The way that Reach coursework is built for interns is meant to support you in passing that teacher performance assessment. You can take a couple of different stabs at passing the assessment. I think there are 2 different cycles that you have to pass. Reach coursework is tailored to support candidates to make sure that you are successful in that. Again, we don't decide what the assessment is, but we help you figure out how to pass that. So that's what it looks like once you have gotten your BA, and now you're working in a school district as a full-time teacher of record, earning that new teacher salary for whatever that district is that you're working in. You are having weekly classes with Reach, and you're getting coaching, and you're getting support to pass the state assessment for all new teachers.
All right. So we didn't want to give you too much information on the intern program because that's down the line after you finish the bachelor's. So we did want to tell you a little bit more about the cost. So what Reach has been able to do is create a pathway that blends together in some cases, grant dollars that you might be eligible for. So some of you might be eligible for, say, the Pell Grant or the Cal Grant or something like that. And for those that are not eligible for those grants, we raise money for that. So we pull together scholarships and private philanthropy so that everyone in the REACH undergraduate program pays the $75 per month, which is $900 per year. We partner with local school districts because a job is required for this kind of program. And in some cases, the school district will actually pay that $900 as well. So there is real incentive here for the school district because they get an employee out of it, and for you because you get a bachelor's degree out of the job that you're doing. Now, this is eligible for everyone. The federal government, when they allowed us to operate with financial aid, they said, okay, so here's the amount of grants that you can give to your students, money you don't have to pay back, and here's the amount of student loans you can give to your students, which they do have to pay back. We said, no, thank you. We'll take the grants, but the student loans, no, thank you. So we don't even make that an option for our candidates that are at REACH. We do not student loans. It's either grant funded or it is scholarship funded. And that's the same price for everyone, so long as you complete the FAFSA every year or AB 540 if that's what applies to you. And that's it. Includes costs like books, class materials, all those things. What you need to bring is your A game, a laptop or some sort of device, and access to the internet, and that's it. The intern program, the funding system works a little bit different from that. The state of California kicks in a lot more dollars for that in a different way. And in this room, community college students, we're talking about that first part, which is the bachelor's degree. So let's get us the bachelor's degree, and then we'll talk about how we fund the intern program, which the state of California essentially funds pretty much that whole program for you, okay? I see there's a question in the chat about the dollars that are being spent at the community college. That funding, that price, that cost applies to everyone, regardless of your circumstance. So whether you've expended funding already, or whether you, for some of you that have already used all those dollars, if you're working towards your bachelor's degree with REACH, if it's not government grant dollars that are paying for you, it's our own internal scholarships that are paying for you. So everyone's going to pay that $75 per month, regardless of your situation. Okay. So what do you need to do to enter REACH? And there's all of these are important, but I'm going to really highlight the work one in a moment. So number one, you have to be 18 years old. We have to be more specific about that one because we also know that there are high school students who are now graduating with associate's degrees. So there is an age requirement for that. So 18 is the minimum age. You have to have completed your your high school diploma or GED or equivalency. We do have 2 short essays that we ask you to complete, really about why you want to teach, why you want to serve in your community. Those are really important to us. And then this is the really key one here, and this is where you have a little bit of work to do. You must have a job working 15 hours per week with students or children in an academic classroom setting. So the first question that always comes up is, do we help you get the job? Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you have an associate's degree in hand, you can knock on any school district's door and say, do you have a job for a paraprofessional or a classroom aide? And 90% of the time, they're going to say, yes, please come work with us. Associate's degrees are the general requirement to become a classroom paraprofessional. And so if you all are graduating with an associate's degree, we are working to connect school districts with the community colleges so that the school district can come to a career fair, and the school district can come to the career fair and say, come work for this school district and we'll turn your job into a degree while you're working with us. So those are the connections that we're making, and we're working with some of the community colleges that you are all attending right now to make that process even smoother for you. So again, you do need to have a position, but as I'm saying, if you have an associate's degree, schools are hiring. They are hiring because there is also a shortage. In addition to that, for the application, you'll need to send in your college transcripts. And then once you've got that job secured, we'll actually get employment verification from the school district that you're working for or the local public school system that you're working for. Okay. All right. So We're actually in the middle of an admission cycle right now. And for those of you that are graduating this December with an associate's degree, we're still taking applications through October 31st. But we figured that that's only 5 days away. And so that might be a little quick turnaround. But if that is you, like you're going to have your associate's degree in hand, please reach out to us and I'll tell you about those deadlines, because the deadline is October 31st and classes actually start November 13th. So really quickly. For the rest of you, if you're planning on earning your associate's degree, or maybe even just finishing up your 60 units and your I GET-C pattern, for those of you that are doing that in May, your application window opens up on February 1st. And so you have until May 15th to submit the application for REACH. So that means find the position as a classroom aide or some sort of school-based job, and fill out the application by May 15th. And then your coursework will actually start in the end of July, before the fall semester of August 2024. So depending on where you're at in your academic program at the community college will determine whether you want to apply in the next 5 days, or if you want to wait until next term so that you could start with REACH next fall. So really it depends on where you are at in your program right now. So we've done the thing that teachers aren't supposed to do, which is talk at you for 25 minutes. But what we want to do now is leave lots of time for questions here. So we've got a really good chunk of time for you to ask more specific questions. We tried to cover the whole kind of breadth of the program and the pathway to teaching, but really this is your opportunity to ask questions about REACH, ask questions about teaching overall. Liz and I are just really happy to be in here and help however we can. So feel free to either use the chat or to unmute yourself, raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I'll go. I have 3 associate's degrees and I graduated at City College San Francisco in May. And I was just, thank you. And I was just wondering, you said that the deadline to start in November is approaching in the next 5 days, right?
Yeah.
And that would be full-time, right?
These are, all REACH programs are full-time programs, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. Okay, thank you. So when I talk to you after about that?
Yes, you can stay on and talk, but for anyone else, I'll just give a little answer right now. For anyone else in the room that's in that situation, what you would want to do is your clock starts really quickly. You're gonna really, you can apply to REACH without a position, but really as a condition of enrollment, you have to have a position. So if you're in that position and our deadline's on Tuesday, you need to start looking at school district. EdJoin is a really great place to find jobs and positions. It's edjoin.org. But finding a local position, hopefully close to you as paraprofessional would be the best one, but there are jobs out there. That's gonna be the application is pretty simple and it's free, by the way. The bigger lift for you is gonna be really getting a position in a school. So you'll wanna start moving on that right away if you wanted to start with us next month. But for the rest of you, you have a whole 6 months to really figure that stuff out.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Andrea Medina. I'm the professor of most of the students that you see on the Zoom. I just wanted to commend you for this wonderful opportunity to educate my students on the opportunity of teaching. I wish I would have met REACH before my student loan debts. I can totally resonate with the story that Hector told. And just for some context about some of my students, we're at Diablo Valley College in San Ramon. It is a dual enrollment class, so maybe half of for our high school seniors currently enrolled in neighboring colleges in San Ramon. And this is specifically an ethnic studies class related to film. So I just wanted to let you know who your audience was, who you were speaking with. I'm offering extra credit to any of my students who would like to ask Mr. Camacho and Dr. Liz any questions. So feel free to unmute and ask a question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting your class. And I'm going to give you, if you haven't had an education course yet, anyone in the room, your first lesson is the reason why Liz and I are okay with silence is because that's called teacher wait time. So We give folks an option, an opportunity to let them process the question before actually asking it out loud. This is a really great question by Alea, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Alea. This is a possibility as well. So for some of you, you might already, as a community college student, be working in an after-school program or a before-school program or doing tutoring, like regular tutoring with a school or a program like YMCA. So long as you have access to that 15 hours per week of working with students, that counts. So we do have folks that work with the YMCA that are in our program. A lot of those individuals are tied to a school's after-school program. So they're already with students from 2:30 p.m. to, in many cases, 6:30, 5 for 6:30. And so that's how they're getting their hours of time. So that is definitely an option for you if you already have a position with a community organization. It's really about that access to working with students in an academic setting. I'm going to type into the chat edjoin.org for those of you that are closer to being ready to have a job in a school. That is where most school districts will post their positions. And you can filter it by job type, by degree type, things like that. And then I wanted to just reiterate, if you have your associate's degree, that's great. We accept just about every major, actually pretty much every major in California. But also if you're working towards completing your IGETC pattern for transfer, that works as well. So if you're really just setting yourself up for transfer, Reach can be the transfer institution for you, and your actual job is like the university that you're attending. Ooh, another interesting question by Kaden. Does it have to be consistent with the same employer? That would work on the surface. What I'm going to ask you, Kaden, to do is actually reach out to our admissions team just to tell us a little bit more about your situation and what that looks like. Because it is a job embedded program, part of our accreditation says that we are saying that our candidates, we call them candidates to separate that from the students you're working with, our candidates are working and we're going to actually give them college credit for their work. So we just need to learn a little bit more about what your setup looks like and kind of how that's being supervised just overall as an employer, as an employee. So send us a message at apply@reach.edu and one of our admissions officers will connect with you to figure out how that might work in your situation. It's a good question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, this is, thank you for putting that in there in the chat, Kathleen. Two things. If you have questions about kind of just application and how the admissions process, all those things, please feel free to email apply@reach.edu. I also want to drop in the chat my email directly because I also know that, yeah, there are the basic questions that you can ask our admissions team, and they're fantastic. So I would trust them to answer any question as well. But I know when I was in college and going through this process, something clicked with me with being able to connect with, honestly, a leader of color, a educator of color. And so if there are questions like that that you'd like to talk to me or Liz about, I've just dropped my email in the chat. Please feel free to use that. If you have an application specific question, apply@reach.edu is the better one to reach for that. Let's see. Could you apply as a college graduate, Caitlin, with a BA already to the intern teaching? Yes, you can. Yeah. So if those of you in the room that have a bachelor's degree already, you would need to get a job offer to start teaching in August of next year. So just like with the paraprofessional jobs, if you have a bachelor's degree and you wave it in front of a school district, they're pulling you in. They want you. That's how significant the teacher shortage is. Not that we don't have high standards for classroom teachers right now, but like if you have a bachelor's, we're ready for you and schools are ready for you. So if you are interested in teaching, wave that bachelor's degree in front of a school district and they may have a position for you. So start looking around. You can look on EdJoin as well. And you can apply for the Reach Intern Teacher Credential Program. if you wanted to do it through Reach, there are other institutions that do it as well, but Reach has the distance program. Liz, were you going to say something about that?
I was going to say there might also be some employment fairs, some teacher fairs to look at in your community, and think about the places you want to work. Districts are hungry. Districts are starving, and they need qualified people. So you are in a better position than you actually think you are. It's just a matter of putting yourself in front of those employers and knowing where to go to get their attention. But you are well positioned for that. Can I address the essay question? And Hector, you want to maybe talk about the private tutoring? The essays are, what you need to know about the essays is that we want to know about you. And the essays are really about you. They're not about what do you know. It's not a test of anything content related. It's like, who are you? What's driving you to be a teacher? You know, why you, why this, why now, kind of thing. And nobody can answer that better than you can. It's not an essay that you're used to, in terms of nobody's going to grade you on it. Nobody's going to do any of those things. We're just trying to figure out, who are you? And it's an opportunity to get to know you and to welcome you into part of Reach.
250 words each. That's about a pretty meaty paragraph or 2 paragraphs. So just to give you an idea of kind of the length of that. There's a question about the cost for the MA programs. That depends on the program, and it depends on the position you're in right now. So if you are trying to be an intern teacher, that is a particular price point, and that is generally covered by what's called the California Golden State Teacher Grant. If you are a teacher, if there's any teachers in the room already, and you're looking for a school leadership master's degree or an advanced degree, that's a different kind of price point. So you can check us out at reach.edu. We have all of those graduate programs listed there for you if you already have your bachelor's degree. There's another question about coming out of high school. Would Reach University be an option? That's really up to you. Reach does have an associate's program that we haven't launched, but we really, I think rely is the word. We really rely on the community colleges because the community colleges has such amazing programs already, and they're really right there in your community. So that if you're coming out of high school, particularly with community college credit already under your belt, in many cases, it makes sense to continue that community college credit to get yourself to an AA or a transfer position for either Reach or some other university. We also recognize that sometimes the community college is still a stretch for people, and maybe they need to work during the day full time and evening classes don't work out as much for them. Reach kind of like that fill-in spot. So technically, someone could enter with 30 units of credit and be on a 3-year pathway, or fewer than 30 units and enter into a 4-year pathway. Because these are teacher pathways we're talking about, we really think that the associate's degree is the best way to get first, because that opens the door for you to have a position in a California public school once you have that associate's degree in hand. So the answer is yes, you could come straight to Reach, but you really kind of want to weigh what you need a job in hand, and it's easier to get the job if you have the associate's degree. Raimi asks a great question of how long it takes to graduate. If you're coming with an associate's or 60 transfer units, that's a 2-year program, and that's it. There is no like choice of classes, so you have to make sure you're choosing the right ones. You come in with your associate's degree, you're going to be put on a 2-year pathway, and you'll be done in 2 years with your bachelor's degree. There is the other question is self-paced. It's not self-paced because this is synchronous work. So you are logging in, there's no jumping ahead. You really are engaged with the people in your cohort and in your classes. If you happen to find a job at a district where there are other employees from that district, you'll be in the same cohort, so you'll at least see familiar faces in there. Pranav asks a fascinating question. Why should more people be interested in pursuing teaching? This is a very, very personal question, so consider my answer very, very personal. I worked for many years at a high school that you would consider high performing, and we would always talk about what does it mean for this high school to be successful. And of course, like many people would say, you know, the number of people that are admitted to Stanford, or the number of people that are admitted to this college, or the number of engineers that we create. And I was the lone guy that said, you know how you tell how successful a high school is? You tell it by determining their graduates become nurses, social workers, and teachers, and associated fields. A deeply personal question to me. I think when your education system is healthy, you have a healthy society. And so I do think there's a service element attached to this, and kind of my part in greater society, and teaching is one thing that I can do, but also recognizing that teaching is not for everybody. So we think that teaching is one of the most noble professions out there. A lot is asked of you, but being in the classroom for 23 years myself, there are very few words to put on what it feels like when you see a student have that moment, that aha moment, that hearing a student say thank you.
Yeah.
Like, like your heart melts. It's an incredible thing. So I don't know that I can convince anyone to be a teacher, but I know that it's worth giving it a try, because the magic that comes from what happened in the classroom, all of the madness aside, it was always worth it for me in the day. I'll leave that question with one last thing. Someone said one time, I'm sure teaching is not that bad. Like, it's probably just like riding a bike. And the meme said, yeah, it is like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire and you're on fire and everything's on fire. That's teaching. And that's very true. But it's
In the
worth it if
best
you ask
way,
me.
though. In
In the best way.
In the best way.
No. Okay. So are there any other questions on the application about getting to know the user and the qualifications? Ria, thank you for the question. Because you have to have a job working with a school, or in some cases a community organization, they're actually the ones that are doing that primary, like, screening, if you will, of you. If they've hired you as a school employee, they've already put you through a rigorous thing. Reach doesn't need to be another barrier. We want to know what drives you to work in your community and things like that, because your employer has already really vouched for you at that point. Madeline, excellent question. How are these classes structured? So we do what are called like clusters in the bachelor's program. So you will be going into classes where all of the subjects that are being taught across the courses are related to each other. So you'll have, say, for example, a social studies cluster or a social studies semester. Well, you'll be learning not only the social studies necessary to be able to teach social studies, but you'll also be learning how to teach social studies. We mix those classes together so that once you've got your social studies cluster done, you can move on to another cluster. Because again, this is built for adult learners, and we know that adult learners really don't love hopping from math to English and taking an art class. Like, that's a lot. And so when you're a full-time working adult, having your courses structured and clustered together really helps keep you on path and focused.
And then what I'd add to that, Hector, is just there's a coherence, right? There's a coherence around the subject matter. So you have one person teaching you the content. You don't have one person here, like to Hector's point, another person. There's a way to make a connection with your teacher, because that is the one person teaching you the content. You have somebody else that's helping you with the pedagogy. Now that I know what this is, how would I teach it? What are some teacher moves? How do I set up learning opportunities for my students so that you're getting content and pedagogy? Going back to what we said in the very beginning, the story of reach. The story of reach is you got a bunch of teachers who had a not so great teacher prep program where maybe the content was separated from the pedagogy. And then all of a sudden you're in front of a bunch of kids. You're like, what am I supposed to do? I actually thought I was supposed to read a script when I did I thought it was, you were coming off of a script. I didn't know. Nobody taught me. And so we're teaching you all the things, the content and the pedagogy, the teacher moves. Like you see that with Miss Medina. She probably does that very seamlessly, right? She knows how to fold the content in with the way that she is teaching you. And so that's what you would learn at Reach. And it's very seamless, and it's concise and precise and coherent. Yes, K-12.
PK-12.
PK-12, right? Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen.
Love that. Love that.
Any other questions for us? Thank you for everyone that's coming in. Reach has been working with several community colleges. We've been working up in far northern California. So with the community colleges up there, one of our closest partners is College of the Siskiyous. We've also been working with the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, which is the same kind of body as Bay Area, but for Los Angeles-based schools. So we love community college students. We actually find that community college students are the most successful in our programs, which is really, really great to have. But this is an opportunity to really let your job lead to the degree and not the other way around. So your step is really to start looking out there are there schools hiring? The answer is yes. And once you've got that position, this could be a really good opportunity for you to get your bachelor's degree while still working. They are apprenticeship degrees and they are growing and growing and growing.
And I would say apply at reach.edu is also what you would go to for the person. I was trying to find it in the chat asking about the master's degree programs. That would also go to apply at reach.edu if you want to learn more about that, if you have your bachelor's already.
All right. So with that, we just wanted to thank you again for being here this evening. Liz and I are going to hang out for a couple more minutes in case any of you want to stay on for any other additional questions or if we can help. Thank you for being here. Thank you for considering teaching. Thank you for attending this teaching event. We need more people to be talking about teaching, even if it's not going to be you as a teacher. We just need more people to be celebrating teachers and educators because that's how we advance as a society. All right. So thank you so much for coming. Oh, yeah.
And a special shout out to Professor White and Professor Medina. I don't know if there's any other professors in the space. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. And thank you for bringing your students here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reach University. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you all the students who came from everywhere. We have students from all over. So thank you also to DVC and all the other colleges represented.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll just hang out for a little moment.